it. With here in Boston.
And so, many years ago, I used to go to the Huntington when I was at another church. The whole church would buy tickets, and we would go and sit and watch different plays. Also, when Sinbad would come to Boston, he would come to Boston almost annually. We would go, I don't know if it was the Wilbur Theater, but downtown Boston, and we would go and watch him. And so, you called us at the station and talked to us about this play, The Bluest Eye. Is that the name of the play?
Yes, so it's The Bluest Eye by the same name of Toni Morrison's first novel, The Bluest Eye. It's an adaptation to a theatrical masterpiece, adapted by Lydia Diamond, directed by Avoya Temple. And it'll be playing at the Huntington between January 28th and to early March. We've actually extended the play, which is why I don't have an exact date for you, so I apologize.
Oh, help me understand this. The play hasn't started yet, but you've extended it. So what does that mean? You sense something's going to happen here?
The play was actually extended. It's just the actual program date. It's going to move into early March as opposed to ending in late February.
Very good. We want to help you to get people from the community to go there.
Definitely.
I'm going to ask you a question. What is a community engagement manager? What is that?
Well, honestly, I'm trying to figure that out myself, right? The Huntington brought me on board to help develop new audiences. Particularly, they wanted somebody who's interested in not targeting, but reaching out to Black and Brown and communities of color, to help them understand that the plays that we have going on are here for them as well. We have stories that reflect all paths of lives, and to let them know that not only are you welcome, but you're wanted here.
Well, you're gonna have your work cut out for you in pulling people in, because we're going through this pandemic, you know.
I hear you.
So you've got people who are reluctant. I looked in our church. Our studio is located in a church, and last Sunday I wasn't here, but I always ask the question, how many people came? How many people came? And the numbers are still very low, because people would prefer to watch it streaming than to come in and take the risk. So your responsibility as a community engagement manager, we want to help you with that as best we can. Also in the studio is the music director of the Bluest Eye, Mr. David Freeman Coleman. Good to have you with us on this morning.
Thank you. It's great to be here this morning.
We're going to talk a little bit about gospel music. Does the play, again, I last night I was online on YouTube and I was looking up all of the information about the play, but is there gospel music or a lot of gospel music in the play?
The book written by Toni Morrison references the period and the time and the place that it's taking place, but Lydia Diamond, who set the book to be a play, added some moments in there where there's singing. So there's times where characters are singing "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," which is, of course, is the signature composition by Thomas Dorsey. So there's that, but we've also added some other elements that are not called for necessarily out of the play. We've added a couple other hymns, and we've added ring shout moments, which, if people don't know, ring shouts are traditional song and dances taken from the period of slavery that's continued on in the South as a cultural event that people educate themselves about slave life and practices and ways that people survived during their struggle.
So when you say that you've added some songs, so you've had to sit back and watch the entire play and say, you know what, we can add this, we can add. How do you do that?
So a director and a dramaturg is somebody who reads the play and has researched discussions with the creative team about what would work here and where we can go creatively. But the director herself, Awoye, had scanned the play and had written in moments that she thought would, could advance the play and the narrative with some more music. She wanted to up the arts, if you want, the musical arts in the play.
So you're an associate professor of theater at Berkeley, and also your music director for this production.
Yes.
So if you don't have a position as a minister of music, we'll be happy to have you here.
I do have a position as a minister of music. I am minister of music at Greater Framingham Community Church. Reverend Anthony
He wastes
Lloyd.
no time, does he?
That's my buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't. That's my buddy. You know, but he and I came out of the same church.
Yeah.
We both came out of 12th Baptist Church.
So once upon a time, you won't remember this.
Here it goes, right?
I want to hear this.
Okay.
Yes,
When
I've been living for this for a couple of days now.
I've been living in Boston since the 80s, and when I first started playing gospel music, I was at St. Paul AME Church.
Okay.
And Sidney Cooper, who did the youth ministry there, I was his musician for the youth choir, and I attended a couple of your youth conferences, city youth conferences, where we would put together mass choirs, and I was a musician for a couple of them.
Wow.
And I remember even being then, when I was just like 19, 20 years old,
Wow.
you were such a dynamic, inspirational figure for what you were doing and for the reasons that you were doing it. And it's so good to be here
That's
in
beautiful.
your presence all these
Wow,
years later,
wow.
seeing you doing it.
You see? You see?
I wish everyone who's listening to the radio right now could see these two men speaking right now. I mean, Pastor's wall face is lit up right now, and it's a good feeling. I can see you feel like a proud papa right now.
Well, no, when I'm hearing about a couple of things. First of all, we're talking about the play. I was watching on HBO Max. They have a story about Fred Hampton.
Fred Hammond, yeah.
And then they had a story about the Native Son, and I remember reading the book The Native Son many years ago.
Richard Wright.
Yeah, and I actually couldn't watch the whole thing because I know what happens, and it's too much for me. And so as I am thinking about The Native Son many years ago, I'm thinking many years ago when I was in the streets of Boston trying to figure out who I was, trying to find myself, and I was pulled into a church, and that changed my life, and we started a youth choir. And we ended up pulling kids from the streets, 30 kids, 40 kids, 50 kids, 60 kids, 80 kids. And that was my life for 18 years.
Wow.
So when you talk about things that were done many, many years ago, youth conferences, does the name Craig McMullen?
Of course.
Oh,
yeah, you
okay.
co-pastored with him for many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We know each other.
No,
It's verified.
The black church community in Boston is a small community, and especially with gospel music. I mean, if you're a gospel musician, you're in several churches throughout the year. You see more of the black church community than probably anybody else because you're traveling with the pastors or the ministers or the ministries that are going, or the choirs that are going to sing in musicals and things. So no, I've spent 30 years doing that work, and so you're a legend in my book. Yeah.
I'm an old legend. Let's talk about the Bluest Eye. Okay, so I hear the name, Bluest Eye.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about a black young lady.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so help both of you, just help me understand the essence of it.
I guess, David, if you mind if I give my perspective on it first?
Go ahead.
I feel like I'm more of the amateur here. David is very much involved in production. I'm more on the marketing team at the Huntington, trying to get this word out here. So the Bluest Eye itself, the story is less about the plot than it is about how and why these things happen to this girl within the story. The protagonist of the story is Ningo Pecola.
Pecola, yeah.
Correct? And Pecola is living through poverty, has a mother that's hardworking, gives her lots of tough love. And unfortunately, Pecola goes through some trauma and abuse from the hands of her father, and unfortunately from everyone around her. So she's desperately looking for a way to be loved in this world. And the theme of Black beauty and societal racism and how it forms internalized oppression within us as people of color is very vivid, and it's a brutal story within the Bluest Eye. And the theme as it relates with Pecola is she becomes to gain this desire, this belief that if she had blue eyes, she would be loved by her mother. She wouldn't be teased by the kids at school. Like maybe her dark skin wouldn't matter, so on and so forth. And you see how this has a rolling effect. And I think just by mentioning this alone, and not even bringing up the whole plot, your listeners could see how this is relatable.
Yeah.
David?
A lot of the ways, if you read the autobiography of Malcolm X and how, you know, the conking of the hair and getting straight hair was their response to societal systemic racism. It was like, because they wanted to be accepted, they wanted to be free from that scrutiny, you know, like what's wrong with your hair. And black women deal with this every day, to the, even in the current times. But the eyes, the bluest eye, is just about that. It's not self-hatred. It's a response. It's a human response, like what is loved and what is accepted in this world, and it's natural to see. And it's silly sometimes when I hear people talk about, oh, you know, that black person, they hate themselves. I'm like, they're trying to survive. Like, they're trying to figure out their way. And yes, self-hatred can play a role in it, but it certainly is not as simple as that. It is a human response. It's a response. And for something to be a response, something had to trigger it. And what those things that are triggering it are the things that we focus on in the show.
Toni Morrison, who is she? And let's talk a little bit about her.
The GOAT. She considered by many, regardless of the fact that she was black and regardless of the fact that she was a woman, considered one of the great novel writers of all time. Her book Beloved won many prizes, including the Pulitzer Prize. She was very celebrated in her life, which was a beautiful thing to see. She passed away years ago, but her work has stood the test of time and
definitely
lifted up by Oprah Winfrey in a big way, who produced the movie for Beloved, and there's other projects that have been have benefited from having Toni Morrison's name on it. I mean, the Huntington Theater doing a full run of a show based on a novel that most people haven't read, even though they might know the name Toni Morrison. That's a great thing, and this is a great way to experience that novel in 3D. You know, you hear it, you see it happen. It's
Fred Hammond, gospel singer, came to Boston a couple years ago, and we were helping to promote the event, and we tried our best to help get people to this production. And after the production, we all came into the black community and went to a black restaurant that opened and stayed open late to accommodate Fred Hammond, a lot of the people who were involved, and many people who actually came to the concert. We were packed into that place, and it was enjoyable. And we did that because we were concerned that in Boston, a lot of black artists, writers, gospel artists, secular artists do not want to come here because they're not getting the response that they would get in New York City or down south somewhere. So there's always a risk that you take when you bring in a black play and black actors, because you want people to flood to the event. So that's why I'm glad you did call us. As it relates to reaching out to black entities in the community that can help you, what are some of the, in addition to the radio and TV station, what other folk or have you reached out to?
So just, for transparency, I've been working with Huntington for a couple of months. So within the last couple of months, I've started developing an internal program to systematically come up with an actual processes of how do you reach out to hard to target communities. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is just partnering with nonprofits, right? Like me reaching out to the Boston Praise Network, me reaching out to the African Music Scholarship Foundation, reaching out to local black-owned businesses, those who have the clout and the respect within their neighborhoods. I've been working in community arts field for a lot of years, and whenever I come into a new town, new community, different city, different state, it's not as simple as me just, walking into a black community. That's not a monolith thing. It's not a place you go to. It's a loose community held by relationships with people that they trust. So what do I need to do? I need to find the people. I need to find the leaders that these people trust. I need to find Pastor Wall, get to know him personally, let him know about my history, why I'm working for the company, what I'm doing, what my company represents, so on and so forth. And once I'm able to build the trust, you're able then to disseminate that information to those who already been following you.
So David Oswaldo called me, one of those cold calls.
Yeah.
And I said, here goes another call. And he was talking about the play and talking about this. And I get these all the time. I mean, the gospel artists around the country call us and say, did you receive our music? No, we didn't receive your music. I don't know who you are. And so we're trying to sift through, what should we look at? What shouldn't we look at? And then Oswaldo said, why don't you come to the play? I don't want to come to the play. I don't want to come to the play. Because so many people are coming to the pastors, and so you just get a little burnt out. And somehow something said to me that I need to take another look at this. And a part of it was your persistence. But your persistence was not oppressive. Your persistence was, you're very cool, very calm. You just kept laying it out. And now I see even more how this can really, really benefit the black community.
I could talk about this forever. This is not a Boston-specific issue, and it's not a 2022 specific issue. I've been dealing with this my whole life. I'm a classically trained pianist, and since I was a kid, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. And in Memphis, my parents would take me to see Dance Theater of Harlem when they came through, or see Alvin Ailey when they came through, or see Baryshnikov. They would just take me to see, if it was the arts, they were taking me to go see it. But what I noticed from a very young age, that if there were black people on stage, there were black people in the audience, and if there were white people on stage, there were white people in the audience. Memphis was already a very segregated town, but I noticed that because I was studying a European art form that's populated mostly by white people, and at that time Asian people as well. So when I would be playing classical music, I would see white people, I would see Asian people, I would never see black people, other black people playing. And the same thing when I came to Boston. For music, I went to Boston University. I was the only black classical musician in the school, and these things are unfortunate to me on many levels. But black people they support the arts, but they support specific arts. And man, every company that I've worked for, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the American Repertory Theater, the Huntington Theater, they all ask me the same question: how do we get more people of color, BIPOCs, in our audience and supporters of the arts? And I'm like, you don't. It's not about what you program. It's about your connections and your relationships.
It's true.
Was exactly what Oswaldo just said. What he's doing and what he did is the beginning of the solution. When I worked for the American Repertory Theater back in 2009, Diane Paulus, who was the artistic director there, she wanted. The first thing, when she came to Boston, the first thing she wanted was to involve not just black people in the audience, she wanted to involve them in the production. She wanted to involve gospel music in this production. So she says, David, can we get gospel choirs and gospel singers from around town to be in the show? And I'm like, of course you can. You just need to create that situation. So I became that person, the connection between the community and the theater. And not only did we have over 200 people on that stage that year, but the ART gave everybody who participated free season tickets to see whatever show they wanted to see afterwards. Nice. It was an amazing, expensive fringe benefit, and they used it. So it wasn't just they were in the show; they became patrons, and they wanted to see more. And for a lot of them, I was told, "This is the first time I've been in this theater. This is the first time I've been in any theater," and it creates, possibilities and that weren't there before. And I did the same thing for Speakeasy Stage in 2016 with the show Violet, which also involves a gospel choir moment. And some of the same people who participated in the ART one did the Speakeasy one. And here we are. When it comes to creating relationships and getting people to care about attending these kinds of performances, we need to create those relationships outside of the play itself. A lot of classical music places are programming black composers and programming black musicians, but That's not they think that's the solution. Oh, if we put black people on stage, then they'll come. No, that's not true necessarily, because they're not checking for the BSO. They're not checking for the ART. They're not checking for what's on stage. So the Huntington, yes, they have to go. They have to leave their comfort of their home and their normal PR, and they have to go out and walk and knock on doors and say, hey, this is happening. And an all-black cast, a black director, a black musical director, a black choreographer, a black creative team is putting together a black story written by a black author that speaks to our, experience in this country. That's a big deal.
Right, and the information's got to get out there. Because as you say, people are just not looking in the papers trying to find out this information if someone doesn't tell them. I remember we used to have concerts here in Boston at Jordan Hall. We had a youth choir concert at Symphony Hall. We had a youth choir concert at MIT, and we packed it out every time we had the event. Black people, black churches in Boston will charter buses and go travel to New York City to go to plays that they've heard about. They'll go to Providence, Rhode Island for concerts. They will do it, but we've got to find a better way of trying to reach out to the community. And it as I was saying to you, this doesn't happen just with this play. It's going to take time to build it. And I always say to people who want to come here and talk to us about their event, I'm saying, you really need a couple months to get the information out, and you can't expect for the first one to see it packed. It's going to be a slow process, but it can happen. But you got to keep building. For example, you can't get discouraged and say, "This isn't working. I'm leaving," and then I have to deal with a whole new personality. You've got to be committed to this process.
You have to be committed, you have to be consistent, and you definitely have to be genuine. You have to want to do this, because this is a labor of love at the end of the day. This is something that, like the internal program I have, it's not going to kick off until a year into it, to be honest with you.
Well, we one of the things that's happened here is that that I want to go back to the Bluest Eye. I want to hear a little bit about the cast members, about some of them and where they're from. We are the only church-based, black-owned, FCC licensed radio, TV, social media, and internet station in the city.
Wow.
Right.
We're the first. There had been other radio stations, but they were pirated radio stations. Let's see if this is a bill collector or... Hello, caller, you're live on the air.
No, this is Jamal Crawford. Good morning. How you doing, sir?
Hi, how you doing, Jamal?
All right. So, peace, to the brothers who are there. And this is, it's funny hearing this, but it's almost, well, not almost. It is kind of sad, because Boston was such a staple of the black arts, and everything from, as you know, Elmer Lewis here, right? And all the greats who came through here from the jazz world, from the world of theater and film. So the fact that it is now viewed as somewhat of a desert is really due to our own failure of really keeping this legacy alive. And I remember when I was a child, plays were very active. I still in storage somewhere have a lot of the playbills from some of the plays we went to see. Classic stuff like, when I say classic, I'm talking about American classic stuff, like going to see like the Nutcracker or A Christmas Carol or Peter Pan, when that type of stuff came. But then the black stuff, when it came through, if y'all know U.B. Blake, and there was Bubbling Brown Sugar and all those type of things. They were coming through here all the time.
Arms Too Short to Box with God.
There you go. And so when we start getting into it, what we need to do is link up. And the brother who works for the Huntington, please give him my contact information. Let's get in contact, because I would like to hook you up here with folks like New African Repertory Theater, and there's a thriving black arts and theater community here. I don't know if you know Akiba Abaka, dynamic. I want to say young playwright, young because she's younger than me, not like she's a teenager, she's a grown woman, playwright. And there's an active, thriving community here too, and if there's opportunities for Huntington to partner and even revive some some of the classics, maybe something from Amiri Baraka, the Dutchman or the Slaves, or some of those old Yuki Blake productions or whatnot. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I would definitely love to help that, anything to dealing with black arts and black theater.
You said, caller, your name is Jamal, correct?
Right, I have all of his information.
Okay, yeah, I would
Yep.
definitely love to, kick with you, have lunch. Let's talk about our history and where we see us going in the future, and
Yep.
building this
Yep,
arts
I have
community in Boston.
I have a network called Blackstonian, which is basically, black Bostonians. That network, and also too, I heard you talking about partnerships in the community. I definitely would love to hook you up as well with Frugal Bookstore, which is Boston's only black bookstore. One of the few black bookstores in the state of Massachusetts, but definitely Boston's only. And that way as well, if there is a partnering, and let's say next season, lining up plays, he probably already has the books. We could do a big promotion and work that out. So yeah, definitely some partnerships.
Yeah, I've heard the name, the Frugal Bookstore, correct? I believe we have a partnership with them. I believe they're promoting Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. They have their own promo code going on right now. So definitely the community, if you know about the bookstore, if you're interested in this play, if you want to get in touch with Toni Morrison and understand how, this novel and this production is still relatable today, definitely hit up the Frugal Bookstore.
Amen.
Thanks, Jamal. I'll make sure they receive your information.
Yes, indeed. I'll continue to listen. Y'all have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you, Jamal.
God bless.
All right, peace.
So, Jamal's incredible, the work that he does. Black Nativity just was here, and two of the representatives came to my broadcast and they talked about it. Then the following week they found we have about 25 broadcasters here. They were going to all the broadcasters and getting on their shows, and I said, look, you don't get 12 bites at the apple, you get maybe 3. but they were incredible. And we need to develop a relationship with them too, and start working with them ongoing, so that we don't wait until something's a day or 2 days in the making.
Sure.
That we have months of doing it. Let's go into the cast. Let's talk about the cast, because I saw some of the YouTube videos and I saw rehearsals. They were all wearing their mask, which is good. But I saw the rehearsals, and so the young lady who is the actual young lady who wants the blue eye.
Yeah, Piccola.
Who is she, and what's the personality like? What is her acting like?
Are you speaking about the actress, or are you
The
speaking about the
actress.
character?
Her name is
The actress.
Hadar Singleton, and she's the daughter of the late director Jonathan Singleton, who made Boys in the Hood.
No way.
Oh yeah. So
That's the first time I'm hearing it.
no. She,
Wow.
her mother played Celie's sister in the Spielberg Color Purple, and Jonathan Singleton and she were married, and they had one daughter, and that's her playing Piccola. And yeah, she's legacy.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, man.
That's
She doesn't talk about it. But
that's kind of the information I need to fuel this publicity tour I got going on right now.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
she's
that's big.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So obviously, you're at the rehearsals because you're playing the music.
Yeah.
So, what is rehearsal like? Is it fun? Is it intense?
Oh, rehearsal is super fun because they're in a large space, and the stage. I don't want to give away all the secrets of the.
It's
You
a
can
circle.
see the circle, but it also signifies an eye, and there's cracks. Yeah, and you don't get mad at me if I'm giving away all the secrets of the show, but it's a beautifully staged conception.
Yes, definitely.
Because they're walking around, of course, a circle, and theater in the round is a very common technique, but the way that they're choreographing the movement and the scenes, you have to see it to appreciate it, but they have to step over these cracks in the stage. And of course the eye itself, if you were to look at it from above, it would look like they're walking around an eye, which is pretty cool. But there's movement involved. So normally a play wouldn't need a choreographer unless there was dancing.
Okay.
So the ring shot moments requires a little bit of dance, but most of the choreography that the choreographer is doing is blocking the show in unique ways that are dramatic, and it's more than just simple theatrical blocking. You go stand over there, you sit down. They're moving in rhythm because the speech, the way that the dialogue works, is very quick sometimes, and it feels like music almost, that they're spitting back and forth conversations between these three characters, the woman 1, 2, and 3. They're talking, the gossipers of the town, and when they're absolutely fantastic in the way that they speak and how they just it feels real, and that's what's really cool about it. And watching them move and speak at the same time is entertaining. But no, they're having the time of their lives. It's a lot of fun. I mean, and you kind of have to, because the subject matter is so dark. I mean, and so serious. There's some things that happen in this play that are really heavy and violent, and so everybody comes in knowing the responsibility that they have to tell this story and to do it justice, and also to represent for the Black experience. But at the same time, they love being part of a community, and they love being part of a show that's doing this. So everybody's very upbeat and very positive when they approach the rehearsals.
So when I was watching the video and I saw the circle, and I saw people all around the circle, and I said to myself, is there some interaction with the audience at all? Do they speak to the audience? Does the audience speak back?
So it's not so much that it's interaction. What it is that Awolye's vision is moving away from the typical, European standard format of the audience is on one side. Right. Here's his imaginary fourth wall. Here's a stage. You're gonna watch, gonna enjoy. But whatever's going on stage is that its own separate world. Yeah. It's its own entity, and she's ripping that apart. And she's moving more from a traditional African style of storytelling, where, in essence, we're all sitting around in a circle. We're all experiencing this together. So it's not an interaction. It's like like a comedy where like an audience member is going to be asked to get up. No, but they're going to be immersed within this play.
So I'm getting more excited hearing about this, and also about the potential of partnerships. If we can find some more Jamals out there who have influence in the community, some of these elected officials who might have influence in the community, that we could find a way to collaborate. We have something new happening with us. When the Boston Globe came and said that they wanted to partner with us, I reached out to them. They responded yes, and now we have the Boston Globe broadcasting out of our studio once a month, and they said they'll do it for four months, and now they're going to go for all of 2022.
Excellent. Nice. Congratulations, Pastor.
And they're willing to work with us. Also, I have a meeting tomorrow with GBH, and they're interested in being a part of us. Awesome. And then we're on TuneIn Radio, but we now want to get on iHeartRadio. So the Boston Globe is going to work with us to get us on iHeartRadio.
All right.
That will be a game changer. But it all started with what you've done. I picked up the phone and called the Globe. Out of that now are coming multiple relationships. You picked up the phone and called me. Potentially, there could be multiple relationships.
Yeah, it's essentially building a network.
Yeah. So, as far as the director of the play, who is the director, and what's that working relationship like? Have you been in? You've been there with the director.
I have.
Saying, okay.
She's tremendous. She's boundless energy. I don't know where she gets all the energy from, but the rehearsal process is taxing in one aspect, because you're there and you're on the entire time for the performers, but you're also off rehearsal time too. I mean, you're thinking about what's next. You're thinking about what has to be taken care of with technical things. You're organizing the stage, the people who run the stage, behind the stage. It's an amazing amount of work. It's amazing that she responds to my emails.
Okay. Now, I'm going to understand this. You're providing the music.
Yes.
So you've got to be at all of these rehearsals and look at
So
it.
I'm providing the live vocal music. There's also a composer involved, whose last name is Ellington. Forgetting, I think his name is Justin Ellington.
Okay.
He's providing recorded music to be scored for the actual show. So there's going to have original music, scoring the underscore for the play. I'm in charge of the singing aspects and the live music. Yeah.
So when you're there at rehearsals,
Yes.
and things are happening, do you get a sense of saying, you know what, this is how I'm supposed to do it, but if I tried this, how does your creativity get into this?
I start with a brief history of the form for those who don't know it. I teach them a song that we can all sing together in unison, which I do is I Need You to Survive, you know that song, which I've been teaching all of my choirs since 9/11. And we sing that just to get ourselves started, because that song brings us out of ourselves and into caring about other people.
You're correct. You're correct on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crucial to get out of our prison mind frame and care about what's happening around us, because the definition of life is, well, the definition of successful life is caring about the struggle of other people. So, and then I start teaching them the songs from the show. I created a simplified 3-part harmony arrangement of Precious Lord for them to learn, because there's 8 singers, 8 cast members, and I broke them up into parts, and they're doing to the best of their abilities singing those harmonies. It's pretty good. And we rehearse that, and we rehearse it. I rehearse them singing solo, I rehearse them singing together, I rehearse them doing different things. We change keys, we try doing different things, we hum, we sing with syllables. We try all different kinds of things to try to become more comfortable with the song. And more importantly, you know, talk about what the song means in context of what they're doing with the show. Precious Lord, Take My Hand, for instance, is a song that a lot of people affiliate with funerals, because that's the song that's sung at a lot of funerals. In fact, as a musician, I get asked a lot of times not to play Precious Lord.
Oh, is that right?
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, they're like, it's too sad. You know, I don't want that song at my funeral, at my family's funeral. I'm like, okay, because it makes them sound. Precious Lord, Take My Hand, Lead Me On, Help Me Stand sounds weak to them, and I'm like, well, yeah. That's kind of the point of the song, is that God is the source of your strength, and God is your strength. But it's okay. I understand people's requests. But Precious Lord, Take My Hand is a cry for help, and it's also an acknowledgement of who God is, which is crucial. But they internalize the song that I teach them, and then they make it their own. And that's how the magic happens.
How are you doing this and still serving at Berkeley and serving at your church? And does this pull you? Do you have to say to your pastor, "I'm not going to be here this Sunday"? Because
believe it or not, it works. I have 4 jobs. So I'm a full-time choir director at the Dana Hall School in Wellesley. It's an all-girls school. I've been there for over 20 years, which is where I'll be heading when I leave here this morning. I'm a part-time associate professor at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley doing theater, and I can make my own hours there. I'm a lecturer of music at Tufts University, where I direct the Tufts University Gospel Choir, and we have over 230 people in the choir this semester. And I'm a minister of music at the Greater Framingham Community Church. And yes, there are times on Sundays when there's a Sunday matinee where I'm like leaving church very quickly on my way to the church, with the very rare occasion where I'm not going to be able to be at church. Like maybe it happens once or twice a year because of a long tech day on a Sunday. But that's I make it work because most theaters rehearse in the evenings and on the weekends, and I have most of my evenings, weekends free, especially since COVID, because choirs aren't rehearsing. When choirs were rehearsing very busily, that was always a trick for me to do theater. But theater has been a lot easier to do since COVID started, because I've just got more time.
Ironically.
Oswaldo, why should Boston's black community come out and watch, see, be a part of this play?
That's both difficult and an easy question to answer, honestly. why should the community come see this play? The community should come see this play for the exact same reason Toni Morrison wrote the novel to begin with. She wrote the novel because she couldn't find herself, her family, and her people represented in arts. Period. She wrote that novel. She wrote this brutal. She wrote this brutal tragedy with this young black girl in Midwest Ohio right after the Great Depression. Struggling with an abusive family, an abusive environment. An environment, right? There's themes of seeds and flowers and bad soil, and Toni Morrison lays out this story in a way where, if you really read it and you really listen to it and you get in touch with it, she's laying out the systematic structures around that are causing these things, the poverty that's causing all this, right? Pastor, you're a parent, correct?
Yes.
I'm a parent. Are you a parent, David?
I am.
We're all fathers here. We all understand how difficult it is to raise children. That difficulty, that stress, that depression is only intensified when you're walking on the railroad tracks trying to pick up coal and fill it up in a burlap bag so that you can heat your home at night, and you have your 10-year-old girls out there picking up stones in the middle of a railroad track and out in the freezing cold, and all they see is the sky that's lit up and there's this orange glow, and they think to themselves, why is life this way? Why is life so hard? Why are these things happening to us? And the story lays it out for you. Again, not so much in the plot, but in how these things are happening to Coca-Cola and why these things are happening to her. And it's really relevant in this time because I'm a younger man. I'm a millennial, and what I see going on within this last decade seems to be like a resurgence or a re-resurrection of what was going on in the counterculture era, the Vietnam War, the Black Civil Rights Movement of the exact same time. And these conflicts that we have in the world right now, right? For the past couple of years, we've been nothing but bombarded with news cycles of presidential slip-ups, embarrassments, and one after the other. And then on the other hand, a constant news cycle full of COVID. And that message of, Black Lives Matter seems to be diluted within that. And I took on this job within Huntington and left the world of politics and government because I feel like the arts is it's going to be the last frontier that we have to keep pushing this message forward. Like, we have to find a way to represent ourselves in this world. We have to find a way so that the next generation behind us doesn't forget, like, there was a struggle that brought us here. There's a reason why I feel comfortable today growing out my curly hair, growing out my facial hair. I was a young kid, raised in the Bronx, remembering to myself, I was a high school dropout. I did my best to get my life together. I joined the military, and I subconsciously adopted this ideology that if I'm going to be successful in this world, I really have to take up this, image of whiteness very seriously. I have to take out the accent within my voice and speak with a different tone. I have to dress a particular way. I have to not be so offended by the society. I have to laugh and roll with the punches. I have to make sure I cut my hair, shave my face, get out the sun, and completely deny everything that makes who I am and the people before me who fought the struggle. And that's why this play is important, because it's relevant to us. We have to keep pushing this message forward. Like, our fight is not over, and the arts is definitely a frontier that I feel is like it's just the next push forward. One of the things, why I take it so personal as to why, we need to get Black and brown people into the theater. It's not about me filling those seats. It's about these Black creators feeling fulfilled at the end of the day. I'm sure it does something morally damaging to you when you dedicate yourself to creating Black art for Black people and you can't get Black people into the seats. That's a problem. And I want to put myself in a position to fix that any way I can.
Yeah.
If anybody listens to Tyler Perry's story of spending all of his money on empty seats and sleeping in his car for years, but he stayed with it, and he's been able to turn the corner. I listen to people like that who are struggling, T.D. Jakes and others, as I try to take this radio station for 12 years. We haven't turned the corner yet, but every step we're finding new people to walk with us, and we haven't given up. And I may not be able to see the fulfillment of what I believe this station can become. It might be the next person coming after me who takes it, but as long as we keep moving forward.
Definitely, you got to keep moving forward, Pastor.
I like the idea of wanting folk in the community to be a part of the arts, to see the arts, to be educated by the arts. I think it's really important. I want to hear from you as to why our time is winding down. Didn't I tell you after 5 minutes you? Didn't I tell you that after when he came in? I sensed a little nervousness, not a whole lot, and I said 5 minutes into the broadcast, you're going to forget about all of this, and you're just going to go for it, and you've done that.
I talk to people all the time, so it's not a problem.
So, from your perspective, why should people go and sit and watch this play?
When you see, the best way to explain it is when you finally see yourself represented on stage, it changes your life. It's happened over and over again. I've seen it happen over and over again. Especially these days in the LGBTQ plus community, when they see themselves on television, which of course was forbidden forever. If they see a same-sex couple or a trans character, they don't know what to do with themselves because for the first time in their lives, they feel seen themselves. So, and that's the theme of the Bluest Eye. Pecola doesn't feel like she's anything but a kicking bag, a punching bag for other people, and she doesn't see her worth. She thinks that the worth is in something else, and of course that's just not true. So we can say as black people that we've seen ourselves on television now. We can say we've seen ourselves on stage, but taking serious topics like this, serious stories from a novelist who is unparalleled, you have not seen this. You have not seen Toni Morrison on stage like this ever. So I don't care how much black theater or TV or movies you've seen, you have not seen this. This is something new. This is something revelatory. And it's set in the past, but it speaks to our present, and which of course informs our future. That sounds like a cliche, but it's real. And here's a theater company reaching out, trying to make that happen. When Hamilton was on Broadway, and Lin-Manuel was talking about, I wanted, Latino and black people to have ownership of the American story and see themselves in the story. I'm like, yeah, but it's $300 a ticket. And the average BIPOC person can't afford to go see the thing that you created for that person. So when Hamilton was finally released on, was it Disney Plus?
Yeah.
That was huge. It's like now for the price of a Disney Plus subscription for 1 month, $8, whatever it is, I can see this show that will fulfill the purpose of its mission in my life. It's coming through my television. I don't have to go to New York City and pay for some crazy parking and deal with all that stuff and there's some expensive ticket. I can now see this, and that's a huge, and thank you to the creators of that show for making that possible, because they're spreading that gospel to the masses and they're making it accessible. And that's what the Huntington Theater is trying to do as well.
Well, I appreciate both of you coming in today and walking me down memory lane and also helping me to understand the relevance of the theater, the impact that it can have on families, and not just black families, families, people.
Absolutely.
Who want to sit and watch the arts actually change their lives and inform them. I'll do the best I can. We're going to take this broadcast. I'm going to re-air it and re-air it and re-air it.
Thank you, Pastor.
And we might be able to bring some other people in once the play actually stops, and have some of the characters, the people in the play, come and talk to people in the city. And I'll talk to the Globe about this too, although I did find something in the Globe. Was that an ad?
No. It was an article.
Just an article.
Again, speaking about the everybody look it up, the Globe. Just Google the Globe and the Bluest Eye. You'll find the article. The article is basically speaking about, one, the difficulty of creating a production like this, and again, the relevancy, why it's important for all, not just the black community, but all communities of colors, because the system that we're fighting, the same system that oppresses black people, oppresses all persons of colors and all those who live within less than desirable means.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see each other again, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Pastor.
Tell my pastor I said hi.
I will.
God bless.